What you are seeing is the first processing phase of wood recycling. A long and sophisticated process that will transform these huge piles of used wood, which is also full of other materials such as metal, plastic, rocks and many other things, into clean raw material for the production of particle board, which will then be used by many sectors of industry and in particular the furniture industry. But to get to this point, to separate the wood from possible foreign bodies, it was necessary to develop a very sophisticated technology. Alessandro Saviola, chairman of Saviola Holding, will help us understand how this processing cycle works and runs. We've said that the wood arrives here at the plant, and the first thing it does is take a dip in a pool.
Yes, exactly. The first element of separation of the wood from other foreign materials is precisely water. The lighter part, which will be used for production, remains on the water surface, while the heavy part, which has a higher specific weight, falls to the bottom of the pool, namely rocks, sand, glass.
Earlier, I mentioned 1.5 million tons of wood to be recycled. It begs the question, where does all this wood come from?
I would start with a premise. Italy is a country now extremely poor in wood from forests. So, about 15 years ago, we had to come up with a new way to produce particle board. Not using virgin wood, but using recycled wood. How? Creating a collection network, not from the typical forests, but from urban forests, as we like to call them. Because every city provides a per capita consumption of wood, and over the years, we have created over 2,000 agreements with all the largest, the most important Italian municipalities. Throughout the Italian territory, we disseminated 3,000 containers, owned by us, that we use to collect waste material. Our containers and our centres receive old furniture, pallets, fruit and vegetable crates that are no longer being used, and anything that is wood waste.
I'm curious about something. How many times can wood be recycled, regenerated?
We could say countless times, taking into account that at each cycle the loss might be about 3%.
Alessandro, let's go back to the production cycle, because it is very long and we are only at the first stage. Let's see what happens after the first wash. We are now on the left bank of the Po River. A while back, as we can see in part even today, the banks of the Po were filled with forests of poplar trees that provided the wood for this industry.
Yes, exactly. Until the end of the 80s, the production of particle board was basically served by the cultivation of poplars on our floodplains. However, my father's intuition arose in the early 90s that particle board could be produced in a different way, and the use of poplar forests decreased dramatically. We replaced it with urban forests, with the production of the used wood that comes from the per capita consumption of each of us, from the city that every day provides wood that will then be reclaimed. It's not all fruit of our inventiveness, but also of necessity. There wasn't enough wood in Italy, so we were forced to import it from abroad, from countries rich in forests, at costs that were not very competitive, which would have pushed us outside of the market. From here, we came to think that it was possible to reuse all the wood waste that otherwise would go to landfills or would be burned, destined for combustion. My father's dream has become a reality thanks to the will, the determination, the collaboration of everyone, and the technology. So it's not true that ecology always means higher costs. In our case, ecology also means savings compared to the traditional method of production.
Earlier we talked about 1.5 million tons of recycled wood. How many trees would all this recycled wood correspond to?
Let's just say that if we were to produce the same particle board that we produce today using virgin wood, we would have to cut 10,000 trees a day. This would mean occupying an area equal to that of the Trentino Alto Adige region.
At what stage is recycling in Italy?
I would say that compared to 10 years ago, the culture of recycling has improved a whole lot. Young people today have a different ecological awareness, and thus the amount of recyclable material that ends up in landfills has greatly diminished. Central and northern Italy are already at an advanced stage, at least in terms of wood. There is room for improvement, however, in the south of Italy, which nonetheless has made great strides, particularly in the last 2 or 3 years.
In addition to this philosophy, some new ones might well emerge.
Definitely. By now, our company has become accustomed to thinking in an eco-friendly way. So all the new initiatives are conceived within this philosophy. One example is this dock on the River Po, which allows us to receive raw materials that otherwise would come via road transport, thus using a natural resource that we have available.
So, in conclusion, Alessandro, your father's dream has come true, but what will yours be?
Look, mine is simple. To be able to find in Italy alone all the recycled materials we need, and thus make us completely independent from foreign supplies. This would mean that Italy has increased its sensitivity and its ability to not disperse these resources in landfills, but to make it possible for them to be collected and reused.
Well then, thanks to Alessandro Saviola, and stay with us because Melaverde continues.